John Shelsy, S-H-E-L-S-Y, John Shelsy. And I was in the U.S. Army and served my 16 months of duty in Korea. And there were trips to Japan from Korea. When the shooting now was at a lull, everybody knew where everybody was. Nobody did anything provocative. It was just a matter of the DMZ got wider. The true settlement and negotiations occurred at a place called Panmunjom, Korea. I've been up there about a dozen times. And we were just south of it. And in fact, we were next door to a hospital being built. Next door means about a mile away. And that hospital turned out to be the Mobile Army Surgical Hospital. There was a Turk outfit and compound nearby, Turkish soldiers. They were tough. And the only church we could go to was a small Catholic church with New Zealand and Australian soldiers in a compound. And we would get down there on Sunday to Mass, those of us who were Catholic. And interesting because from Seoul up to the DMZ, Panmunjom, Korea, 20 miles roughly, would bring clothing and tents and blankets to the United States military infantry divisions up on the DMZ because it was so cold. And that train, there was only one road, a main supply route, MSR, that would go up, and when the train went up the tracks, it had to back all the way back to Seoul. There was no turnaround, no nothing. It was very primitive. So the first time that you saw things that were important, it was clothing. And gloves were terribly important because frostbite was everywhere. Frostbite was in a few minutes. So we would wear regular underwear, summer kind of underwear, long johns. Then we had fatigues. I have a fatigue jacket on, or a fatigue shirt on now. Apologies because it won't button anymore, but it used to button. And we had a field jacket with the long johns, and we had OG olive green shirts that were solid wool, and OG pants. And we had boots. Now the boots, combat boots for the United States military, would not survive Korea for too long. Your feet wouldn't make it. We then got deliveries of, and chronologically I'll have some of this out of sync, but we had deliveries of Mickey Mouse boots. Now, they would keep your feet about 60, 65 degrees, and they looked like Mickey Mouse's feet. You could never run in them, or hide from the enemy, or whatever you were doing, because they were that big and that high, and they were like that, but your feet were warm. And the leather combat boots that probably wouldn't do it as well, at all, in fact. So then we would have the field jacket with a liner. I'm even forgetting the sweater that we had, a scarf, a hood, that pile cap, which all of us in Korea wore through about 8 months of the 12 months, and those ear flaps came down. And then we would have a parka, and then a poncho, and almost anything you can name, a helmet on the head. If you had to fire something in a hurry, you'd probably holler at the enemy, just a minute, I need to have a couple of minutes, hold on a bit, you got yourself organized. Finally, all that clothing came to all the GIs. With the gloves, the big gloves, and we had liners and leather gloves inside those big gloves, but you couldn't do much. We had 5-finger gloves. They had a wool liner. And you know, lots of times we were down in the village, walking through the village to secure the village from any intruders, infiltrators. And we would give the liners of our gloves. We'd keep the leather and give the wool insert to anyone, children mostly, adults, and the papa-sans and the mama-sans, who were the older grandparent generation, very cold, and we'd make sure that they would get whatever we could give away. And we did that a bunch of times. If we got enough off the train would stop at this base, it'd stop at another base, stop at the base. Because all the material came by ship. came by freighters, big freighters from the United States military, as did all the food or anything else we had. We ate good in the U.S. Army. The frontline people right up just above us ate very well. Food was very important, hot food. A lot of cooks did a lot of hard work keeping that stuff ready for them. And of course, as I mentioned when we first came here, we had a big bucket where you would dump your empty tray or dump in extra food that was left over, which wouldn't be much. And at night, the villagers would come to those big barrels, 55-gallon drum, and take the food that was in there. And we from America, who know the land of plenty, felt terrible about that. We started to gather our own food and take it down to the village to them. The people were starving to death. War does no good for anyone. We think we did some good. They would all keep, the people who died, their bodies were frozen solid. They wouldn't bury them until spring. Spring in Korea could be very late April, maybe early May. So it was a tough time. It was a tough time. Probably the second biggest enemy was winter and the weather. But we got through it. The country was good, treated us well. We got good food, good situation. We were on guard and on duty all the time. There were situations that we in the Army Security Agency, attached to NSA, would call a thing called a red alert. We would have gathered information that says we're waiting for them to come down again across the DMZ, Chinese, North Korean soldiers, in some kind of wave that you wouldn't believe, but they never came. We would try to monitor what they were doing in our own ways, which I can't explain because it's highly confidential. And that's 60 years ago for me, and I'll never tell anybody. But that was the security for our forces and for the South Koreans. The red alert would be called when we think there's trouble. There could be trouble, and we would know it quickly. It wasn't like today's communications, by no means. 60 years ago, we would send telegram. And we would send a telegram to U.S. Army Forces Headquarters, Tokyo, which would forward it to the Pentagon. And the Pentagon would, whatever they do with it, send it back to Tokyo and come to us. And I explained to you before we started. That would take a very fast 2 days. Well, by the end of 2 days, I think we'd all be history if they did anything naughty. Today it would be instant. It would be satellite. A couple seconds.